Hi, my name is Rocio. I'm a career foundry student, and in this presentation, I will be walking you through the thoughts and processes behind the current language learning app I'm working on, which wants to understand how do people learn a new language and what is their experience, and more specifically for young adults aged between 18 and 30. Because every day millions of people learn a new language, it's important to understand their motivations, their pain points, and how can we make their experience smoother. So first, we're going to talk about our user persona. Her name is Elisa, and she is an example of 5 people I interviewed. So it's a condensed information of patterns, common patterns found on those interviews. And here we have some information about how her life looks like now. So she's a busy 21-year-old student and part-time barista currently learning French. And we can see that she likes watching Netflix and series in their original language, which helps her to get a sense of the language she's learning in a more fun and entertaining way, while she's also using Duolingo to make the process fun and quick when she's on the go. And we also need to take into consideration that Elisa already learned a language previously at school. And so now, because she grew older, she has found it harder to find time to learn a new language because she's busier. And she also misses the community feeling and the ability to ask teachers live questions whenever she would have doubts, and also the feeling of a structured curriculum. And so this is the obstacles that prevent Elisa from being able to apply the vocabulary she learns to real life situations. So that whatever she learns in the app, she can actually use it for interacting with others, such as natives specifically. And then she wants to be able to categorize the words she learned in a way that feels more familiar to her. Because what happens is that commonly in Duolingo, she finds that there's random sentences that she doesn't know how to use in a real life situation. For example, well, you have an example of these kinds of sentences. For example, the girl eats ham and mom, I want a snake. But these kinds of sentences that give like one answer possibility and don't consider the whole spectrum of how you can use this depending on the situation you're in a formal setting, informal setting. So this makes Elisa lose her confidence on how and motivation eventually on how she's able to communicate. And then we have something that breaks Elisa's journey, which is realizing that maybe learning French with an app is not the best idea for her because she doubts on the effectiveness, because she noticed that maybe it's a more casual way of learning than a primary source, and she would rather join person lessons where she can ask questions to a teacher, and where her journey would feel less lonely. That's something that was also particular in Elisa's case, that she found that while she was learning a language, it felt like lonely journey. So this is a quote from her: "Learning a language is a heavy workload if you want to learn it correctly and properly. You can always learn as a hobby, but then your level remains low and informal." So I will be walking you now through my prototyping process, which prioritizes four main flows. And the first one is obviously the sign up process, because it's the first interaction that she has with the app. And on it, we can see that there's a space for her to put her details and then select the language. First choose her native language, then choose the language she wants to learn, and then what's the level that she currently has in that language. And then the second task would be to complete an exercise and save a word for review. So it's important for Elisa to be able to see the words that she struggles with in a way that she can practice them. So here we have an example of an exercise, and at the end, if there is a word that she finds difficult, she can save it for reviewing it later. And then the other two remaining tasks are about reviewing a word in the practice section. So here you have an example of how that would look like with the true and false pattern. And then the last one would be to upload a new word in the practice section, which would be inside the practice section feature. So let's talk about the usability testing expectations. So my expectations when I started testing the prototype was, okay, it's going to be a linear process and all the tasks are going to be completed. But at the end, it ended up being a bit different. So 80% of the users didn't understand the logic of the practice section. So am I supposed to swipe? Am I supposed to tap here? Or how do I interact with this? 4 out of 5 skipped quickly through the 10-minute exercise because the flow was too short. So they were sort of confused, like, okay, did I do this task already? Because it seemed pretty quick. And then 3 out of 5 users took more than 3 seconds to find the practice section, which is important to know because it's one of our main features. Then connection was lost with one possible user, and the screen showed a loading black image instead of the prototype. And it was very embarrassing to feel unprepared. And all of the users that did the test had struggled to find the upload button and were confused on why it was put on the practice section. So at the end, I arrived to some conclusions, which is that the save word for practice option is too small or unnoticeable based on users' feedback. The patterns for the true or false exercise were confusing. How to proceed to the next exercise in the practice section was also unclear. There were problems to find the upload option, as I previously said. The process of uploading a new word was unclear. And the onboarding screens for choosing your native language and the language you want to learn were too similar, and that was also confusing. So the possible solutions is that we change the position of the save word for practice option so that it's more visible, and then that we change the true or false pattern as for one that is more familiar for the user. So this could be by checking other language learning apps. The pattern for practicing a word should already speak for itself. We don't want a long onboarding process where we have to over-explain things. The upload option should have its own section. That was a big concern of the users. We don't want this in the practice section, basically. That's what they, two of them really emphasize, that we don't want this in the practice section. The pattern for uploading a new word should be more informative, and changing the layout of one of the screens slightly should fix the problem. So then lessons learned. Well, I found that Finding people to test was a struggle because I wanted as much unbiased opinions as I could. So for that, I went to the street and I interviewed people. And yeah, it was a process to know exactly who to interview, in what setting. So that was a struggle. And then I should be watching also my connection because this prevented me from interviewing some people because they were unmotivated uh, as they couldn't keep up with the test. So that was a big struggle. So next steps, I want to understand how and why would users upload new vocabulary, and in what situations. Is it when they're watching a Netflix series? Is it when they want to change the meaning of an existing word they found in the app? We have to find out. Then make a second usability testing based on the already existing users' feedback. And that's necessary to know whether the feedback was implemented correctly. And lastly, make a second survey to discover if there's a certain segmentations between users when they're learning a language. This could be based on parameters such as their dedication. Are they spending 10, 15 minutes, an hour a day learning? What stage are they in? Are they in a beginner or experienced level? And their methods of learning. Is it passive or active? Are they teaching others about the new language they're learning? Are they actively reviewing vocabulary? And thank you so much for being here and listening to my presentation. And the moral of the story would be that you never know what users think until you ask them, and you need to keep asking whys to find out. If you have more questions, you have my email, and thank you so much. This is the end of the presentation.